Welcome to Reckoning Bros.
Welcome, Mark. How you doing, man?
I'm just keeping a low profile and defending the American way of life.
You're keeping a high profile, I think, defending the American way of life, but you are defending the American way of life. I think you are. Josh, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Doing good. So this is my turn, right?
This is your turn. It was my turn last week to ask you questions, which mostly you guys answered, except a certain someone who may or may not
Except for
be named
me.
Josh refused to answer a really important question that I asked. I'm gonna let that go. I was up.
apologize.
Can I interrupt to tell a little story, a little about a scene in MASH that has to do with turns?
Oh my God! Yeah, go ahead.
So in the original MASH, where you have Henry Blake and Face, you have Frank Burns and right, not the David Ogden Steers, Colonel Potter era, but the early era with Trapper John, with Wayne Rogers as Trapper John, and Henry Blake has to go somewhere, Tokyo or Seoul or whatever, and he has to put Frank in charge because Frank's second in command. He's the major, and Frank decided, how gun ho Frank Burns was, so Frank decides he's going to make everybody get up and do calisthenics, like army doctors, nurses, right? Not going to work, but he decides that's what he's going to do, and so he makes everybody get up, and they go out and they form this single file line, this line, and on one end of the line is Hawkeye and Trapper, right? And Frank's like, "All right, everybody, get ready. We're going to do our calisthenics. We're going to get ready to do our exercises. I want you to," and he's looking at Pearson McIntyre. He's like, "And I want you to start the count off." And Trapper John looks at Hawkeye and goes, "Are you one?" And Hawkeye goes, "Yes, are you?"
What?
It's Josh's turn. Josh,
As much as I love that show, I would not have put that comedic bit into this.
Then we'll cut it out.
I think we're not going to cut that out.
No.
We don't cut out clips of someone talking about MASH. I think MASH was a good show. I grew up on MASH, and I didn't understand it as a kid, but I still think it was monumental in making me who I was.
Oh, it was a great show.
It was during our era, Scott. It was bedtime. You hear the music starting, it's time for bed.
And if you have not heard Bill Hader do his Alan Alda impression, it's one of the best impressions anybody's ever done of anyone. Look that up. You will be fucking amazed.
No, I haven't. So I got a couple questions for you guys. Just gonna throw them at you, and we're gonna let you bounce them back and forth.
Please.
So I threw some things into AI like I did last time, and one of the things I came up with is truth and political discourse, exploring the ethics of rhetoric and persuasion and fact. Here's your question. In an era where emotional narratives often prove more persuasive than factual evidence, is it ethical for well-intentioned politicians to employ psychological persuasion techniques that simplify complex issues if it helps advance their policies and they genuinely believe it'll benefit society? Or does this approach, regardless of intent, ultimately undermine democratic values by denying citizens the opportunity to make fully informed judgments? That's pretty long. I am sorry, but let's do the here and there.
Professor Josh just comes out fucking guns blazing. Holy fuck.
That was I was not expecting that kind of hit.
Jesus Christ.
Come on, let's go, boys.
No, it is not acceptable to push narratives to achieve a desired outcome.
Agreed. Here's what I think. I just want to do a quick similarity.
Josh asked a question that took 20 minutes to ask, and then we answered it in like 0.2 seconds.
You did.
There you go, Josh.
Very well done, sir.
It's like the noble lie. It has no place in 2025. It has no place in the digital age. Convincing people can't be, it needs to be fact-based. It just has to be anymore. We're going to have AI, just like AI helped you with those problems or with those questions. AI is going to be able to help us with the answers to all these complex things too. It has to be fact-based. Spin has no place anymore.
And it has to be fact-based. And like I repeatedly tell people, do your own research.
Mm-hmm.
Please, my God, do your own fucking research. When you hear something incendiary and wild, if whether or not it aligns with your political affiliation, your philosophy, etc., please do your research and don't just rely on echo chamber sources or media outlets or whatever that agree with whatever your preconceived notion of the truth is. And I'll give everybody a good example since it was just brought up. So one narrative that is being relentlessly pushed is Elon Musk and Doge and Donald Trump are slashing cancer funding and cancer research. Right? You hear it every day. They even take it so far, it's going to kill people. It is killing people, etc., etc. Here's the truth. The truth is the Trump administration and the National Institutes of Health. They're going to cut $4 billion a year from NIH's budget based on recommendations from Doge. And they outlined it in a memo. It would cap the amount of funding for what are called indirect costs for general expenses like facilities and administration at 15%, which is down from an average of 28%. So if you do your own research,
Murders. Fucking
so
murders.
I think everybody knows that facilities management is coffee machines, toilet paper, toner, office refrigerators. Administrative costs, especially when we're talking about the federal government, is redundant paperwork. So we're talking about a grand total of a 12% budget reduction in facilities management and administrative costs. There's no cancer research being defunded. There's no cancer treatments being defunded, etc. And so, of course, you know,
I have a small bone to pick with that. Josh and I, of course, have behind the scenes come up with the Doge drinking game, where every time Mark mentions Doge, we have to take a drink. And I was trying not to get wasted tonight, and I thought it'd be okay, but apparently not. But
Sorry,
that's a
Adam.
great
I'm
point.
trying
No,
not
that is,
to.
that is a great point, and that's a great example. Administrative costs are completely separate from research costs. You're right. It's pens and copying ink and shit like that. But people are going to spin it, and that's why it's unethical, because you give an inch, they take a mile. You have to put the law down. No spin, and we just as a society need to pick. It needs to be a more. We can't allow spin from politicians and thought leaders. You need to be accountable for your words, and you need to admit when you make a mistake or do something wrong or say something wrong as well. And you should be kicked out. You should be kicked out of the public sphere when you're seen as not making those efforts to correct your mistakes or apologize. It can't be accepted anymore. Similar to, I think we discussed before, if you can't hang with a 3-hour podcast conversation, you can't be president anymore. That's from now on out. That's what's going to happen. It was proven in the last election, right? Would you agree? Am I off
oh,
base here?
I do agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that what
I
Josh's
think 3
question is
hours was a
another
little
part of that.
much. I think 3 hours was a little much to dedicate if you're on the campaign trail. Maybe that's
It's
just me.
not too much if you're on fucking Joe Rogan. You should be able to devote 36 hours straight. It's that
Full
important.
disclosure, everybody, Josh voted for Kamala Harris.
That's fine. I voted for Chase Oliver.
I voted for who's the dirty jobs guy?
Mike
Mike
Rowe.
Rowe?
Mike Rowe.
Yeah.
I like that guy. I like that
Yeah.
guy. He's a smart cat. But and you see what I'm saying? I think that Josh, you're talking about spin. Basically, that's the heart of that question,
Yeah.
right? Can you
Yeah.
spin? You can't spin. You can't spin. It doesn't work. It needs to be something that we see as a relic of the past.
Fact. Truth.
And
Yes.
that's it. And if you're bullshitting and you can see through it, you should be out of the game.
Yeah.
I won't ask. Never mind. It's your day. Go on.
Okay. So moving on. Next question. Are we both paying attention?
Dog, I'm paying attention
School
every
is in
day.
session.
Yeah.
It's good.
Would you rather have the ability to speak to raccoons, but they're all pathological liars, or be able to control squirrels, but they're all deeply resentful and plotting revenge? Serious question.
All right. Follow-up question. Do the squirrels have a history of being successful in the,
No
in
context given there.
that's see, I think you don't understand would you rather. When you ask a would you rather question, you have to have like just impromptu. You have to be able to respond to questions like
I
that.
want to hear the question again.
Would you rather have the ability to speak to raccoons, but they're all pathological liars, or be able to control squirrels, but they're all deeply resentful and plotting revenge?
I
Is
want to
this
say the squirrel one, but I need to know: is the squirrels, are they successful historically speaking with the
They
revenge
have been
plot?
in the past, yes.
Okay, still gonna go with the squirrels.
I'm going to go with the trash pandas.
Okay. All right. So that was
Was that an
off
AI?
topic.
Was that an
No,
AI
that
question?
was no. Scott thought I needed to throw some would you rather's in, so I threw them in.
I like that. I like that. I like, and I think I like squirrels more than raccoons, which I think is controversial, but I think that's really what helped me make my decision.
Scott, you notice how we didn't dodge the would you rather question?
Wait a
But
minute. No,
Excellent
wait.
point, Mark. I did notice that both you and I answered that would you rather question and did not dodge it or refuse to answer it on the grounds that we own guns. Josh, I'm going to give you one more chance. I'll repeat the question.
No,
Will you answer the
no,
question from
no.
last week?
I will not answer
Josh
that
is
question.
canceled.
Nope, I won't.
Will you answer, Josh?
No,
Just answer the question, please.
raccoons.
All right.
You're referring to last week.
Yeah, last week's question.
No, thank you.
All
All
right.
right, so moving on. The philosophy of political memes and how culture shapes political discourse.
Jesus Christ, fucking! Oh my god!
What was the
Hold
last
on. Let
meme
me get
you
my
saw?
headspace. Let me get my
Yeah,
headspace going on here. Jesus.
sorry, I'm sorry. What was the last meme you saw? I'll give you my example. The last one I saw, I was flipping through Twitter 30 seconds before this, and there was a Peter Griffin meme. And he was sitting on a bench, and there was like a transparent shadow of Peter Griffin, and he's doing this. And the text says, if Doge has found billions in fraud and abuse, why haven't there been any arrests?
Oh, I've got the answer to that. I got the
Well,
answer
Wait, I
to
got
that.
a drink because you said Doge. Hold on.
This is such an easy question, and I don't know why people don't get it. You don't have to be arrested for fraud, and fraud doesn't have to necessarily be an arrestable offense. No, there's not a single member of Congress that goes to their district and says, "Hey, look how much money I sent overseas to help other people in other countries." They don't do that because they would never get elected to anything if they bragged about that in their district. So the answer to your question is when politicians insert spending into appropriations bills that they don't talk about that get passed and that money gets spent and there's no transparency behind that when it's buried in a $7 trillion federal budget, that's fucking fraud. you're
yeah.
you're 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 defrauding your fucking constituents because you're not being honest with them about what you're spending their money on. It doesn't have to be finding somebody at the Social Security Administration that's sending checks to somebody. It doesn't have to be an NGO accepting money from USAID and spending it legally, right?
So fraud doesn't have to be illegal and to
Fraud
be
doesn't have
fucked
to be
up.
illegal. No.
I don't think that was Josh's question, though. He just
No,
made an example of me, but that's a great
there
point.
was,
God
there
And
damn
was,
it.
I'm
no,
glad that
that's
you said
fine.
it.
That is totally
Great
fine.
point.
Because that's where we wanted to take this, the how internet culture shapes things. So my example was just a meme. It wasn't a question I wanted to pose.
So yeah,
What was your last meme you saw, Mark?
the last meme I saw,
Can you tell it without showing it to the camera?
no.
Oh, for
He's not
God's
showing it to the
sake!
cam.
Saving the world.
Ralph Wiggum scratching the Tesla. I'm saving the world. That's good. That's good.
That is good.
What's his name? No, I need to know. I know I need to know what the kid's name again is because I've never seen an episode.
Ralphie.
I've never seen an episode of The Simpsons. What's his name?
Ralph. Isn't it Ralph,
Have you
Scott?
never seen That's Ralph Wiggum. Yeah, you've never seen
Yeah,
an
we
episode of The
haven't.
Simpsons.
We've
I
had this conversation
That's
with
right.
Mark.
I think I just block it out of my mind every fucking time because I can't believe he's never seen an episode of The Simpsons.
He also claimed he never watched network television before, and lo and behold, that wasn't true, was it, Mark?
It was true. I said that I'd not. No, that's not what I said. You've mischaracterized what I said. I said I don't
Fake
watch.
news.
I said I don't watch network television shows anymore,
That
And I
sounds
have-
No, this
reasonable.
was like 10 years ago.
and I haven't for years, and I still don't because
It's mostly trash. So you're. I think you're right.
But here's the whole point.
Josh thinks
It's in the-
HBO is a network, and it is, yes, but he knows I'm talking about ABC, CBS, and NBC.
Broadcast networks.
Correct.
Josh,
Yes.
can I answer the question?
Give me your meme.
All those Studio Ghibli AI memes from when, because OpenAI put their image generator on ChatGPT, so everybody's been doing all these Studio Ghibli. It's a Studio Ghibli picture of Zelensky in the White House meeting, where they look like kids, and it's great. It's that one, that picture.
It's almost those are pretty good. They're almost as good as the Wojak memes. Isn't that what they're called? Wojak memes?
Oh, Wojak. Yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
The girl.
Yeah. Oh, the pencil drawing pictures. Yeah.
So
I'm sorry, Josh.
No, you're fine. Using this, how the internet culture can shape, tie it back to the original question, and ethical for politicians to simplify the complex issues with the emotional appeals, but also with the memes. Now, the politician's not necessarily pushing this, but their party could be pushing, and they could be, I don't know, discuss.
A politician sharing a meme is way different than spin from the original question. I think it's...
Is it?
Yeah, because it's throwaway. Spin to me seems like intent and dedicated time to convincing somebody something that's not necessarily true. Sharing a meme is like an instinctive, that's funny. And even if you're a public figure, I have no problem with you being, that's funny. Share on X. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Mark, I know you got something. I know you got something here.
No, I agree. No, I agree with you. Yeah, sharing a meme is, that's exactly what it is. It's a throwaway, and it's completely different than proselytizing and spinning things to.
I'm sorry. Let's get outside of the politician realm, and let's just go on the outskirts, on the fringe, with the supporters. They're sharing memes. They're moving that needle by asking those questions. The Doge one I just gave as an example. As a participant in the electorate, can we shape political discourse by using memes?
Like, is it possible? Yeah. I'd say it is. I think memes can actually make a difference. They can nudge something one way or another, for sure. Are you also asking, is it ethical for a participant, for people like us who are just people trying to shout into the void and hopefully somebody hears? Is it ethical for us to use memes to try to push our things to do? Yeah, because we're shit talkers. We talk shit and we hope someone listens, right? But I don't accept responsibility for the things that I say in the way that a politician should. I know my role, I'm not trying to fucking lead anything. I'm just trying to throw my fucking voice out there. So yeah, we should be able to do all that. Throw memes out there, all that shit. 100%.
Yeah, I ain't no choir boy.
Mm-hmm.
We know.
I've seen the receipts. And also, you have AIDS. So that's probably a dead giveaway too.
That's a meme and it's fake, and I'm going to debunk it.
Okay. Next one. Would you rather be the world's most ethical person, but everyone thinks you're a villain, or be widely celebrated as a hero while secretly knowing you're morally average at best?
Oh, number 2,
Number
Mark.
2.
See, Mark, it's real easy for us to answer these would you rather questions. You notice how both questions that Josh asked, we answered immediately with no hesitation. Did you notice that, Mark?
I did notice that.
Oh,
Josh is a coward.
Do you want to give him one more chance? Should I ask the question one more time and give him the
I'm
chance?
not going to answer that question.
Mark, what do you think?
I don't know. That question was pretty fucked up though when he stopped.
Yes, it was.
I'm not saying it
Yes.
wasn't. I'm just saying you, Mark, answered the question like a
You
soldier.
know, I did. I answered the question.
And he's pretty fucked up.
It's taken an emotional toll on him. Josh, would you rather suck the dick of a beautiful man for 5 minutes? Let's keep in mind that he's got a clean shaven, beautiful dick. And let's throw this in there. He's a nice guy on top of all that.
That makes all the difference.
5 minutes, you're sucking this dude off, right? But
Eye
you have to
contact.
be into
everywhere.
it and you have to give eye contact. You really got to do a performance. Or option 2, for 10 minutes, you get fucked in the ass by a nasty dude. You don't have to be into it. You can even shout like, "Oh my God, I'm not into this." And he's a morally average guy too. What option would you rather have? Option 1 or option 2?
Again, I have a gun and I will use it.
Your gun's not with you.
Too bad. I will find some kind of weapon.
The default's going to be option 2. That's the default if you don't answer, because just think about it through rationally. If you're in that situation, they can do option 2 to you without your consent, where option 1
You
will
can't
require
throw a
some consent.
default in. You can't add that to the
No,
context.
and
It's not the way it works.
this is my would you rather. This is a scenario. Think it through rationally.
Josh's
Option
answer
2
is
would be the default.
Josh's answer is I'm going to commit, which is fucking blackmail. You can't blackmail us.
Moving on
I
to
can't
my
believe
fifth
you wouldn't fucking
and
answer
final
that.
question.
All right.
Tying this all back together, and Mark, you said something alluding to this earlier, is the ethics of outrage. How moral indignation became political currency.
This is good.
Yeah, this
Give me
is
some.
good. No, this is good, and the left capitalized on it with selective outrage.
Bing.
They're the ones that capitalized on it using selective outrage. So if we want to take it in like in terms of like present day recent news, the chat, the texting scandal in the Trump administration where they were using Signal, etc.
That was hilarious.
And every Democrat calling for all of these people to resign, or at least the 3 top people to resign: Tulsi Gabbard, Michael Waltz, and Pete Hegseth, over the texting scandal. None of them, nobody who said that called for anybody to resign when Lloyd Austin's Defense Department droned a van with 7 children in it in retaliation for the bombing at the Kabul airport. All right. So
it wasn't even made a big news story like this one is.
Correct.
Can I just say regarding that scandal, why would you have a conversation like that at all with a group and not know who a number is? I would not.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that would happen. You're right.
Yeah, there's 2 ridiculousnesses in this whole thing. One is the first ridiculousness is that Jeffrey Goldberg was somehow on Michael Waltz's phone and got added to the chat. The second ridiculousness is Jeffrey Goldberg stayed in on the chat and didn't
leave.
And didn't remove himself from it. Okay.
Good point. I've never thought of the second part of that. That's a great point. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to. I would be out of it. I'd be like, get me out of this shit. I want nothing to do with this. Da 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 da. That'd be my instinct.
And just to remind everybody, because maybe you do or don't know. He held on to that information for a week, and then he dropped it the night before the CIA director, Ratcliffe, Gabbard, and Hegseth went to testify on Capitol Hill. So it was timed. The release of it was timed. He wanted him to get hammered for it, right? He was looking for maximum effect.
Yeah.
He's a media hitman, is what Jeffrey Goldberg is, right? He's the guy that said that he's the guy that used anonymous sources to claim that Trump called the dead soldiers at Normandy suckers and losers, right? And we, even John Bolton, who hates Donald Trump, and every other person in Trump's orbit that went to Normandy on that trip says it didn't happen, right? And when Goldberg claimed that, he also said that that in the coming days I will, I will reveal my sources, which he never did, right? Because it's a made up quote.
Josh, what was the original question?
It wasn't really a question. It was just posing how moral indignation, outrage, can become political currency.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's what I was going to say. The left did that just like Mark said. And you know how James Lindsay talks about the woke right, for instance, recently?
Yeah.
I think the woke right is people trying to do that on the right, but I don't think they're going to be nearly as successful as the left was. Not, to whatever degree the left was successful doing that shit. It just seems so pathetic when the right tries to do it, right? It's like, come on. And I feel like the responsible adults on the right are also doing a better job of shutting that shit down on their own side than the left did. Mark, Josh, thoughts?
Well, I've got so many examples of selective outrage. I mean, we could be here all night, right?
Do you agree that the leadership of the right is better at shutting down their woke right people when they try to pull that I'm a victim bullshit for no good reason?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know if it happens that often.
I do.
It doesn't happen as often, but I think it's.
I think the right does a fairly good. They do a fairly good job of marginalizing the crazy people in their that want to be aligned.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Marjorie Taylor Greene has
yeah, she's a little crazy.
She has vastly less power in her political party than AOC does.
Yeah.
Right?
Carrie Lake, Lauren Boebert, they're kind of jokes.
She has vastly less influence and power than Jasmine Crockett or AOC or Alana Presley or
Maxine Waters. I know you're trying to think of Maxine fucking Waters.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
God, she's the worst. She's so bad.
Oh my God.
But I think that's where the right's always just been better at shutting down their own pieces of shit than the left.
Yeah, and
like you Josh, I know you're a big fan of Jordan Peterson, but he always talks about how he will always ask Democratic politicians, when does the left go too far? And they have a hard time answering that. The right doesn't have a hard time answering when the right goes too far. They're like, no, I hate fucking white nationalists. Get the fuck out of here. I want nothing to do with them. Whether you're Trump or John Bolton, you're going to agree on that.
The left is always adapting to the crazy.
Yeah, kind of.
Well, they embrace it. They embrace it. Remember when AOC went to the border and stood on one side of a fence and posed her face in her hands and pretend cried at an empty parking lot. Ostensibly, she was there
that picture.
to protest kids in cages.
I wish that was the last meme I saw. Yeah, I love that one.
Right. So that would end the political career of almost anybody on the right.
It'd be like, gay. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Right. Right. And I have one more example of selective outrage because it's in the news, and what I'm about to read you is in the news. What I'm about to read you won't hear about too much in the news, and there's a reason for that too. And I think we all know what it is. So,
Jews.
Scott, no, shut up, Jew.
All right,
Scott. And I wanted to ask you this question today too. Also, So I'll lead off with you've heard about some of these foreign exchange students who are here as guests of the United States on a temporary visa.
Hmm. It's
They're
big
here
news
at,
ever since Mahmoud Khalil.
yep, right. And they're being, several have been arrested by ICE and taken to the Louisiana facility. Um, there's judges that have put, uh, that have ordered that nothing be done, etc., that they get due process or a hearing or whatever. And the left is losing their minds, calling these abductions and kidnappings and people being disappeared, etc., for their free speech. I want to know. I don't want to know what you know about the Turkish student that I'm talking about, the girl in Louisiana.
No, no, I know about Mahmoud Khalil. I looked into that, but the Turkish student, no.
Josh, do you know who I'm talking about?
Nope.
Okay.
Do you just keep putting out and relighting the same cigarette through the whole recording? You
He
are doing that. It's been a while since I smoked,
he's
man, but it tastes nasty after you relight it. You should just kept it rolling the whole time. But I
he's always
digress.
been one that takes like 4 or 5 hits and throws a cigarette. I've
I
seen him do
remember
it.
that from working with him. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was like this, bam, like after like 4 hits.
It's all fake news.
That is fake
That's
news.
all fake.
That is fake news. I don't know.
So no. So there's a huge. So sticking with the subject of selective outrage. There's huge selective outrage on the left about a couple of people who've been taken into custody by ICE. ICE has said, and the Secretary of State has said, Donald Trump has said, people on the right have said, no, we made it clear that if you hate America and that if you're here as a guest and you're going to be engaged in pro Hamas demonstrations or you're going to publish pro Hamas op ed pieces, etc., you you are subject to deportation. We, you know, they they they've been very clear about that. I won't get into the legality of it because that's a real. Maybe we could do that on another
That
show.
shit's complicated. Oh my god, I was looking at that. It's so complicated. As a layman, it's so hard to get. It's almost not even worth
So the
getting
outrage on
into.
that is huge. They have no outrage about this. Illegal immigrant released by the Biden administration charged with killing a Georgia grandmother in a random attack. This is from 6 days ago. A murder suspect accused of strangling a Georgia mother of five in an attack last week is a Honduran illegal immigrant who was caught and released at the southern border by the Biden administration in March 2021. David Hector Rivas Sagastumi, 21, has been the subject of a deportation order ever since July 2023. Sagastum is charged with capital murder in the death of Camilla Williams, a 52-year-old mother of five and grandmother. Her body was found dumped in a wooded area. Williams' family told media outlets that she said a man had been following her in the days before she was killed. Authorities have not determined the suspect's connection to Williams. An arrest warrant states that Rivas Sagastum assaulted Williams of Marietta, placed her in a chokehold, causing her to lose consciousness. He's also being charged with necrophilia, by the way. Department of Homeland Security told News Digital that the United States that Rivas Sagastum entered the United States illegally on March 17th, 2021, and was arrested by the Border Patrol and released. That's who I want my selective outrage to go to. I want it to go to the family of that woman and the horrific death she
I,
must have.
I get it. I get it. I get everything you're saying. But what actually matters is the boring, difficult legal details as far as who gets deported and who doesn't. What concerns me about this whole discussion is the instinct of freedom of speech, right? And that's where I probably am going to disagree with you a bit because I have more sympathy towards I know there's lefties that are full of shit, and I know there's all that woke bullshit, but freedom of speech is so fucking important that even if it means giving the devil their due in this case, I am willing to be like, let's make the legal decision. And Mahmoud
I'm gonna
Khalil was a green card holder, right? From what I understand, that puts you a step more towards being a citizen than a rando fucking visiting student, right? So I'm definitely willing to say visiting student, you have less of, I guess, freedom of speech ish guarantees. I'm just worried, Mark. I'm worried about the instinct. I'm worried about the instinct of get them out of here. I'm worried. I'm worried. Freedom of speech is that important to where
well
I
in
slow down
Mahmoud
is all I'm saying.
in Mahmoud Khalil's case, of course, he led a student riot that ended up that resulted in the assault of a Columbia University employee, a dean being taken hostage, property damage, and
Agreed.
preventing
He's a green card holder. Should he have due process? Should that come out in the court system or should he just go? That's what the real question is, right? When I hear people way smarter than myself talking about this, the smart motherfuckers, that's a question they have. It's not, is he a piece of shit or did all this? It's, is he subject to due process before getting deported? It's these boring fucking details that matter, right? Because the law
While
is
I
fucking everything, man.
while I
The law
look
is
something
everything.
up, Josh, you answer that question.
And I'm not even saying I disagree with you. I'm just saying I hate when a motherfucker that just says, get it out of here. And when someone in power gets to make decisions by anger, I want the check to be there. No matter how much I disagree with the check, it's so fucking important that the check is there when someone like Trump, who I don't trust, who I hope is the greatest president ever, I hope that's what happens. Doesn't mean I fucking trust him. I trust the separation of powers and checks and balances, right? And I don't like the instinct against checks and balances. I don't have the vocabulary or the knowledge or the schooling to express that more than what I just said. But when I hear smart motherfuckers talking, I am very weary that some of those smart motherfuckers get away from that fact, right? And they end up justifying the things that they say too much. There needs to be checks, there needs to be balances, and you should be happy the Supreme Court and the court system's there to check the president. And maybe they're wrong, and the president gets to do it. But I'm fucking thrilled that I live in a country where the court system is always like, nope, nope, you can't do that. Nope, you can't do that, no matter how fucking annoying it is. God bless America. That's all I have to say.
Josh,
I agree, but I don't think it's just the Supreme Court that's doing the checking. You got minor courts that are doing the checking, which are stepping way outside of their boundaries.
I'm sure they are. They're all part of the federal court system, though, right? And it kind of
Yeah.
works its way up. I don't know a lot about this. I'm trying to remember shit I took in college.
No, but I'm just saying. Let's take an example here. We have a federal court judge in Dayton, and this jurisdiction is Montgomery County, Clark County, Miami, whatever, Green. It's just this area,
Mm-hmm.
and he gets to say no to the president
Is a
and
person that the
block.
president's
That's
supporting living in this area? How much time and effort is the Supreme Court or higher courts expected to spend on every one of these issues? If they got to farm it out to a more local person and it's still within the federal jurisdiction, me being the lawyer that I am, that seems like a reasonable thing, right? To just, you only have so much fucking time in a day, right? How many
right.
people? I got to look at a spreadsheet of how many people are devoting how much time. I'm only concerned about a person's day and how much time they have to spend in realistic fucking terms. That's what matters. We get so far away from that shit in our fucking conversations, man. I'm not saying you, the three of us here. I'm saying in general, the royal
Yeah.
conversation. But
But I'm just talking about in terms of hierarchy, in terms of national jurisdiction.
exactly,
There needs to be a cutoff point, and
I understand that. Let's give them the resources that they need. That's all I'm
Yes,
saying. And maybe my argument's based on ignorance. Mark,
mine could be too.
There's a
Mark's looking
state.
at more Doge shit. He's like, I'm fucking to the left. The left.
No,
The
it's not.
gays, the women, and the fucking the men and the women's sports. That is
I'm
that is. I mean, not that that's not a crazy fucking issue, but
I'm king of the gays.
you would be a great king of the gays.
A broadly contains grounds for which an alien who is in the United States after having been admitted or having their status adjusted to that of a lawful permanent resident may be removed. Section 237A4C is a rarely used provision of the law that allows the Secretary of State to seek to deport, quote, an alien whose presence or activities in the United States the Secretary of State has reasonable grounds to believe would have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States. This law gives the Secretary of State broad power to declare an alien deportable for reasons above with no requirement that any crime was committed.
Great, prove it in court. You still need due process. That's grounds to arrest him, right? And want to deport him, but okay, then the court system comes in and you have to have a trial. Is that above a trial? Is that what the argument is? It doesn't warrant a trial?
Well, no, there's another post that I haven't found, and it shows that that the courts ruled that they can deport you.
I there's a it's really hard to spin a green card holder not having to go through the court system. I don't like it. Instinctively, it hits me wrong no matter how you. Because in the end, laws are what they are. It's a complicated mess of complication. That's what the law is, right?
As a lifelong civil libertarian, I tend to agree with you, um, except that no, I don't believe that a foreign national here on a visa has the same constitutional protections as an American citizen, and that's going to go to the
I agree,
Supreme. That's going to go to the Supreme Court.
Fair. I
and
understand that.
and that should be in the Supreme Court.
Are
It's going to.
you? I'm worried about instincts. When I say this, I'm worried about instincts. I'm worried about angry people on the right going too far. And I want the roadblocks to be, I don't know where he's going. In his defense, he doesn't realize that I hit the record button again. So he
That's
probably thinks that
true.
we're not recording
That's true.
in his defense. But Josh, do you see what I'm saying? The letter of the law, you could very well be right. But I see pitchforks. And I feel like if we're not always diligent and not always throwing roadblocks in the system of who's ever in power, Trump's president right now. He's not always going to be president. You know, it's about the position. I'm making an
And
argument against
setting
the
the standard,
position.
setting the precedent,
Yeah,
setting.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
I get
I
that.
want the roadblocks in this scenario. And every time I play it back in my head, and every time I listen to all these people smarter than me talk about it, I still want the roadblock. I still want the roadblock because I don't trust the leader. Doesn't
The
matter if it's Trump.
kingly.
Doesn't matter if it's who's ever controlling Biden.
Here's another
I don't
post by
trust the leader.
Malugin on Mahmoud Khalil. DHS confirms to Fox News that ICE has arrested. I was wrong. This is not about Khalil. It's about another one. DHS confirms to Fox News that ICE has arrested Badar Khan Suri, an Indian student at Georgetown, who DHS claims has been spreading Hamas propaganda and has connections to a known or suspected terrorist who is a senior advisor to Hamas. DHS seeks to deport him via the same rarely used statute they are invoking with Columbia student Mahmoud Khalil. DHS statement to Fox, quote, Suri was a foreign exchange student at Georgetown, actively spreading Hamas propaganda and promoting anti-Semitism on social media. Suri has close connections to a known or suspected terrorist who is a senior advisor to Hamas. The Secretary of State issued a determination on March 15th that Suri's activities and presence in the United States rendered him deportable under INA Section 237 4AC.
This is a student visa. This isn't a green card. This is a guest student, correct?
I'd have to read
That's
it
what it
again.
sounded like. That's what it sounded like when you said it. That's the grip I got. Yeah, I mean that's more towards let's just get them out of here. If they committed a crime, let's get them out of here. But still, there should be a system in place where you have to. There's got to be a case, right? If you don't have a case behind you when you do this shit, you could get in trouble. So long as that's the case, I'm fine with it. Hamas is a terrorist organization. I don't know if you know what happened October 7th, but it was fucked,
The
right?
Secretary of State,
Like, I get it.
the Secretary of State said this: when you come to the United States as a visitor, which is what a visa is, which is how this individual entered this country on a visitor's visa as a visitor. We can deny you that visa. When you tell us when you apply, hi, I'm trying to get in the United States as on a student visa. I am a big supporter of Hamas, a murderous barbaric group that kidnaps children, that teenage girls, that takes hostages, that allows them to die in captivity, that returns more bodies alive, that returns more bodies than live hostages. If you tell us you are in favor of a group like this, and you tell us when you apply for your visa, and by the way, I intend to come to your country as a student and rile up all kinds of anti-Jewish student, anti-Semitic activities. I intend to shut down your universities. If you told us all these things when you applied for your visa, we would deny your visa, and I hope we would.
Of course. Yeah, that's when you're applying for a visa. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
their argument by that is you lied to us when you told us why you were coming to this country.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you've been caught doing since then.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, your visa is revocable.
Great. Let's have a good due process system in place to make sure that this comes out as fairly as
Well, we're going to
possible.
see that. I'm going to go fix some dinner, but I'm anxious to see these court cases.
I want to see them too, and I'm hoping for these motherfuckers to get fucking deported, and I'm hoping that it's through the law, right? And I'm hoping that it's because they did illegal things, and it's not a bunch of angry motherfuckers that want to deport people they disagree with. I want it to be the law because
Do
that's
you?
what makes America great, man. I'm just old school, dog. I'm
Are
old
you
school as
being?
fuck. I'm
Were
liberal
you
as
being?
fuck, dude, till I fucking die.
Were you being honest on the podcast when you said you were angry with Donald Trump?
I'm always angry with Donald Trump because I've seen tweets and Truth Socials that he posts. I've been angry with him ever since I watched The fucking Apprentice for the first time. I hate that fucking show. Yeah, I don't agree with him on the shit and the way that he acts. And okay, strategy, great. Strategy. Maybe it's all strategy and you're right. Cool. Maybe you're right. Why the fuck am I supposed to believe that at
Do
face
you have
value,
Trump
man?
derangement syndrome?
I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. I hope he's the best president that's ever existed. I hope that's what happens. I don't like. I just
You know
he
when we were
annoys
talking,
the fuck out of me. Like what?
you know when
Maybe
we were
there's strategy, but dude, I'm telling you, Mark, you can give me your arguments, but there's other smart motherfuckers that are trustable that have been listening to for years, trustworthy rather. I'll use the real word that have been listening to for fucking years that disagree with a lot of his
it
shit.
drives me crazy, and it makes me mad knowing that Susie Wiles, who I knew during my Reagan
And you
years,
may have banged.
no, he got caught in the last 48 hours saying that he wouldn't rule out military force to take he wouldn't rule out military force for Greenland, and I'm like, stop it,
Yeah, stop that shit. Stop that shit
stop
right now.
it,
Exactly.
right? Stop it.
What's the point of that? Is it a land grab? Is it oil? Is it
Well,
natural resources?
I'll tell you real
Or
quick.
is it just
I'll tell you what it is.
Defense.
I'll tell you
they're
what it.
counting
I'll tell you what it
safety and
is.
security?
I'll tell you what it is real quick. The Chinese and the Russians have dominated that area for the last 4 years during the Biden administration. Their influence is increasing. We have there's tons of rare earth minerals in Greenland. The the straits that go up toward the Arctic from Greenland are vital. to U.S. national security. Space Force has a base there because without it, we would not have early warning of intercontinental ballistic missiles heading toward the United States. It is Trump and company are correct that Greenland is vital to the United States to U.S. national security, and that the Russians and the Chinese have flexed their muscles up there for 4 years unchecked. I will translate Donald Trump for you when he says something stupid like, I haven't ruled out military force for Greenland. He's saying that. He's not saying, you have to know Donald Trump. He's not saying that he wants to take over Greenland by invading Greenland. What he's saying is that if Greenland is not receptive to aligning itself with the United States on national security issues vis-a-vis the Soviet, Chinese, North Korean axis. If you're not willing to do that, and the Russians and the Chinese, but especially the Chinese, do something aggressive in Greenland, then he wouldn't rule out military force. He's not talking about invading Greenland.
He did a piss poor job of conveying that to a lot of people.
He does a terrible job conveying it, and it drives me crazy. And I'm not sure Susie Wiles is able to, or anybody else is able to, reel him in and say, stop saying stuff like this. I think he just does it, and nobody can stop him.
Well, the American populace that is listening to this and trying to understand what he's saying is not in his signal chat. So we don't know.
It comes across exactly how it comes across, which is, oh shit, like he seems a bit unhinged. Let's calm this guy the fuck down. He's a leader of the free world. It doesn't come across as good at all. Not even a little bit, man. Like, I don't know.
All right, guys, I'm going to go fix some dinner.
All right. I guess we're coming to a close here. Josh, one last chance to answer my question. Option 1 or option 2?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Understood. Option 2
all
it
right.
is.
Well, that is all for mine. Unless you guys have anything else, we will see you next week.
Have fun with option 2, and I'll see you next week.